And you can do these things really fast. But it generates a bunch of HTML files, a bunch of templates, a bunch of models, a bunch of controller code, and it ends up like, the first few ones you're like, okay, cool, this is cool, I'm so productive. But then after a while you go back and you're like, my God, this is a nightmare. And I've ran into that myself. And so Happstack helps you in that aspect because Happstack in general, let's start with Haskell. Haskell in general is very composable. It allows you to segment things nicely into little modules. But also the server itself allows you to compose what's called server parts, so you can separate this functionality and this, and you can have a really clean separation without having lots of messy spaghetti code, so to speak. Okay, second aspect, routing logic is unnecessarily magic. I don't know, Simon, have you used any of the routing features in Rails?
It's been a while. It just kind of followed the program, I didn't mess with it.
Yeah. So there's like
did it like the existing code, and it's got a way, and you've got to follow the rail. That's it.
Yeah, you got to follow the way or go on the highway. So yeah, it's got a lot of magic behind there, and sometimes you're going to this URL and you're getting an exception, or you don't understand why this route's not working, and there's a lot of convoluted magic behind there, and I know because I've actually read the source code. Huh?
What do you mean by routing logic?
Essentially what happens is there's this object that has a bunch of properties associated with it. And at runtime when it tries to look up the URL to figure out what to do with it, it reflects on that route object, finds the correct property, and follows it.
It does.
And the stuff that's involved with that is a sufficiently large amount of magic that I don't think that anybody completely understands it.
So basically how you get from the URL to this piece of code on the web.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, there's a separate file in Rails with the routing. And if you actually look behind the scenes, I know this because I pull my hair out sometimes looking at this code. I'm like, why is it doing this? And it's got lots and lots of native programming where you type in one little thing and it generates like 100 lines of code, like magic. And so that's why things start to get kind of crazy and confusing because you don't really understand why something's happening. Because again, in a language like Ruby, you have infinite mutable state, and there could be lots of different weird things going on in the background. You don't really know what until you trace every single bit of it. So, in Happstack, routing logic is straightforward. I don't really have an example for that, but again, it's a purely functional language, and you define things in a very nice way, and there's not a lot of magic going on there. It's kind of all laid out there for you.
I'm sure a future revision of this presentation could just have code.
True, but that would be assuming that everyone knew Haskell, which
No, you could just show it.
I can show. Okay.
I think maybe some of the
We'll have
stuff
more code the next time.
from the HAppS tutorial.
Okay, more code. I'll take that as a suggestion.
Haskell is better than Ruby, Rails, but it's a lot easier to get work if you're in Ruby. These are just some numbers. Probably everybody intuitively knows this, but Ruby is getting about 20 times as much traffic as searches for Haskell, and if you search on HAppS, it's not even on the map. And this is just from the Google AdWords estimator. Google will tell you what things are being searched more than others. Ruby wins here. So this is really why, right? It's kind of a pity to have a really nice language and just not be able to work in it. And there's a lot of work in web apps. It's sort of, and there's also a lot of work for, you might say, like amateurs. People that aren't necessarily like PhDs. People that just kind of do it for the love of it. And a lot of amateurs basically today are stuck, programming in Ruby or Java or .NET. And it's pretty hard to get, because there is a lot of, like I said, easy work in web apps, and it's hard to get it with Haskell. So it winds up being sort of a hobby language. And this is something I'd like to see change, and I think it is gradually changing. And that's pretty important to me. Rails envy? No. We have PHP envy. Because PHP actually has 9 times the traffic of Rails even. And, you know, people often sort of scorn PHP because it's very easy to do bad things in it. And yet it is the most successful sort of virally spreading web creator out there. Yes?
Or pestilence.
How is ASP?
You know, I didn't check ASP. Next one, we should check ASP. I suspect that it's not as good as PHP because ASP isn't free.
It's close enough. Though.
Close enough? I don't know.
Actually, it is.
It's got to be up there.
Well, okay. Well, you're right. I don't know. We should check. But it's kind of the same thing, though. I mean, it even kind of looks the same. It's got these ugly little tags. But there's a lot of things that are about PHP that I don't like, but it's very nice. There's some things that I really do respect. And for example, one thing about PHP is every page of documentation has a way to give more feedback on the documentation. This is something that I think Package could use. Yes. Very much. And this is something that I think HAppS could use. And this is the type of way that I'm thinking in terms of like making it. I think it's very important that when you do this type of framework, you make it approachable. And I think this is something that's been missing in the past, but it's something that we're going to be seeing more of going forward. So yeah, the real nemesis is not Rails, it's PHP. The end. We may not be better than everything, but right, we're trying to be better than everything.
Yeah, we're really trying. So.
A lot of people are working very hard on this. It does work. There's Happstack, there's HAppS tutorial. I've seen countless questions on Reddit where they're saying like, well, you know, if Haskell is such a great language, then why are there no web pages written in Haskell? And so, you know, now there's at least 2.
Make that 3 if you count HAPS.org.
HAPS.org, yes. And yeah, you guys should try it out. This is where this is the community. Happstack.com has all the blogs, all the news group. There's an IRC channel. IRC channel gets a lot of chat, right?
Yeah.
It just took off since Happstack.
Yeah, I actually did a comparison. I took the kilobytes of the logs for 2007 and 2008, and we're already 1/3 of those years in the first month, in 10 days. So not bad.
Yep, and then there's a Google group. Just post your questions. That's it. Any questions or sort of feedback?
I'm more got them, so in kind of comparing Rails to HAppS, I don't so much think that there are people out there using Rails that want a better web framework as much as Haskell programmers that want to use Haskell to make their websites.
I would agree with that.
That's fair.
It just seems very weird to have the kind of comparisons. I think more people just I think it's more just Haskell. We need something to bring to managers. Like, look, it does things.
I think you're right. But I do think that you get Haskell programmers that are programming in Java or .NET or other languages that they don't like as much, and there's some degree of frustration there. Just from having talked to people.
Yeah, and you know, we can't stop people from using inferior languages.
We can. We try.
You know, it's like comparing, you know, you take something like you know, one of those old things they used to till the ground, what do you call this?
Dollars.
Yeah, those things.
Hand plows.
Yeah, hand plows, there you go. This guy's doing his hand plow, and then I come in with my,
International Harvester 420.
yeah,
Combine.
and I'm like, hey man, you should get one of these. And he's like, no, I'm cool with my hand plow, man. It's like, hey, to each his own, man, to each his own.
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna, that's fine.
No.
We're not trying to have everybody.
No.
We just have some. Cool.
Anybody else?
That answers your question.
I don't know if I was asking a question as much as making a statement.
Right. Never mind.
But yes, yeah.
You know, to recap, I think what you were saying was the thing about web apps is it's something that's sort of easy to show what you did. Like to grandma, right? Or?